Hi everyone, it's Monday night. It's only the lonely here, and I've got a great show lined up. I really have. I've got two great guests. I hope they come on anyway. I really hope they come on because I haven't seen them yet in the little waiting room, as they say. Well, anyway, I've got the great artist, Anthony Brown, and we'll be talking history tonight, actually, as well. Got some great clips as well, some great photographs. Also, Paul Kappa. So the very two diverse guests in their own arts. One great artist. So I've got these two on, hopefully. But what I want to show is, really it's all about my sponsor. Let's get my sponsor on. And it's Gap Painting Services. And Gap Painting Services sponsor the Frank Carlyle show. And it's really kind of them. And as Gap Painting Services, fully time saved, fully insured, and star customer ratings. Customer references on request. How about that? And there's the number there, 07986 286 357. And I just think that the first class, they really are first class lads. And I'm not just saying that because of sponsoring the Frank Carlyle show. They really are brilliant. Anyway, that's the Gap Painting Services, and it would be great, if you get hold of them, because of me or the NHS worker, you've got brilliant discounts. They go in, do it, clean, tidy, and they're away again, and they do a first class job. They really do. So I'm back again. Look at me. I went out the other night with our Francine. She said, "Dad, you fancy going out?" And I went, "Is it raining?" And she said, "Not yet." So I looked out the window. I said, "Okay." So anyway, she came down, cab, went out, and I met a few people. They said, "Frank, we're watching your thing on the YouTube." I said, "Oh, thank you." And anyway, at the end of the night, we were coming up the grapes, actually. We were going home. It wasn't like we weren't out all that long, to be honest. And you bump into these people, don't you? One fella, "Hey, Frank," and I went, "Yeah." And he shook my hand. He said, "Are you making things up?" And I went, "Yeah, loads of things. I always did things up." So anyway, I said, "I don't make things up like you, when you go home to your wife and making things up where you've been." And he didn't know what to say. And his mates, just at the red bar, a couple of mates. They're men, not younger lads, grown men. And anyway, our Francine just sitting around, she said, "Dad, they're jealous of something. He's jealous of something. I don't know what. I don't know." So I've been putting up with this for years, to be honest. I really have. Now, look, I'm sorry about this, but I'm going to change my glasses. These are broke, and they will. These are broke, so I don't know where my other ones are. My other ones are broke, so I've got my little one. Anyway, I'll just say hello to these wonderful people, first and foremost. And Even and Frank, hope you're well. Really enjoyed the walking tour last Thursday. Thank you, Mark. So did I. I really did. It was really good. And thanks for carrying me back. You're a good man. And every time I needed something out of the bag, to show like prints and paints, Mark was there in a flash, out bang, showing these people. And they thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a laugh as well. We really had a laugh. It was really good. It really was. So thank you, Mark. Tony Barn. "Hello, Frankie. Hope all's well, mate." And a pint and a thumbs up for Frank. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it. And Mark Kinnish, looking forward to Anthony Brown. So am I if he comes up, wherever he is. I don't know, you just might have me, unfortunately. Just me. Good evening, Frank. Hope you're well, says Charlie Wood. Yes. I had a great weekend. I really did. I had every weekend when Francine phoned me up, said, "You fancy going out, Dad?" And it was off the cuff, really. It was off the cuff. So we went out, and we enjoyed ourselves. We really did. We just thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Just had a laugh. We had a laugh, and I was telling them mad little things that, when I was young, and with my mates, and so we really laughing about it. And she was made up, so it was nice. The first time I was taking a woman out in keys. It was nice to have company, albeit that I was my daughter. But we did have a laugh. It was really good. Met some nice, and people that let on, and I haven't a clue who they are. It was really nice saying hello to everyone. They were saying, "We see you on YouTube." I said, "Yeah, as well." So it's just nice. It's just it's just a nice thing to do and say, and well, it's the way it is. Hello, Frank. Hope you're well. What's planned for tonight's show? To be honestly, I was supposed to have Anthony Brown on, and we'd be talking about history as well, talking about music, because I suppose to have coming on tonight, but I don't know what's happened to them. I just have me all night long. I'll be talking about. But if you've got any questions to ask, just ask Lee, Charlie, Mark, Tony. Just ask, and whoever else comes in. Frank, I love history of the former boxing stadium on Bixted Street. To be honest, Mark, that was the very first boxing stadium, purpose-built, that is, boxing stadium in the whole of the country. And it was a great venue for the boxing, whether it was professional or amateur. Then wrestling, then concerts. I went down to see. I seen a few boxing things there, actually, amateur especially. And I seen the John Conti. What was that fella's name? Forget his name. Anyway, I've seen him, and he beat him at the stadium championship fight. Seen that. But I also seen Mott the Hoople and Hawkwind. That's what I went down to see. Mott the Hoople and Hawkwind. Couldn't wait to see them. And I went down there with then my girlfriend, Pauline Bennett. And we went in. What we were saying afterwards was that the support groups, I think there was only 2 support groups on, and they were brilliant. We said, hey, the support groups were brilliant. Besides the Hoople and Hawkwind, obviously. And one of the support groups was Queen. Never even heard of them. Queen, and someone sent me an email saying that they were at the same concert. And that's taken me by surprise. It took me by surprise, but it was brilliant. The whole of the show. So yeah, it's a shame that it went. Unfortunately, it really was. Mark Kinnis used to go and see the boxing, says Lynn Ellis. There you have it. So you see the ways it's strange really, because when you look at certain things, if you know what I mean, uh, certain events, the likes of boxing, the likes of wrestling, the likes of pop concerts, then all of a sudden they decided to pull it down. They're your city planners for you. That would be still a great little venue for certain things, a great little venue, because it was rounded. You know, the arena was rounded, absolutely brilliant. And as I said, the city planners pulled it down. I'll be showing you later on actually, and you'll go, oh, really? You will, uh, a couple of photographs that are put up, or are going to be putting up, and you'll be made up. You really will with them, but saddened at the same time. And that's the way it is. It's always been like that, the city, by just looking at a certain thing. I don't think that the city planners come from Liverpool. I really don't. I really don't. So they don't buildings. Or if they do come from Liverpool, they haven't a clue of their historical significance to the city, to the heritage of Liverpool. We've lost so much. And that's by sheer, as I call it, criminal vandalism. Criminal vandalism. That's what I call it. Vandalism. And it's so sad. Charlie Wood says, always remember the wrestling, Frank. The women at the front screaming for blood. They're still screaming for blood today. At the front. Always screaming for blood. Well, it's, yeah. It was a great thing. I never ever went to see the wrestling, to be honest. I never ever went. But there was some great fellas there. I always remember, going back then, someone said to me, I seen that Kendo Nagasaki. I don't like that one. And he said, I wonder what that means. I said, Kendo. I said, well, Nagasaki is a city, Nagasaki. I said, and Kendo is a stick that they fight with. So his name's Stick City. Just looked at me, funny looks, So, oh, God, blimey, giant haystack. It's amazing, Frank, when you put a post out about the likes of the stadium and you get the comments, including helping people getting in contact with each other, yes, who haven't seen each other in years. I think that's nice. Yes, it is nice. It is, to be honest. It's good because social network, it was supposed to be for people getting in touch, but you do get some horrible comments. You really do coming through, and it upsets people. It really does, because at the beginning there was no restrictions, and there was no respect, and it really put people down. So now there are lots of restrictions where you've got to show respect, and when you go on different sites, it shows, it says you've got to show respect and whatever, but people still come out and be disrespectful. It's like this show, it's you try to show respect and whatever, and everything. You've got to take opinions. It's like me podcasts for Liverpool Football Club. You do actually look at things and see a different light, opinions. It's just like this show. It's different. Pat Hutchinson says, hi Frank, my dad used to go, he loved the wrestling. Lots of people did. lots of people. And as Charlie Wood said before, all the women at the front screaming for blood. I bet your dad was at the back. Letting the women screaming for blood at the wrestlers. And there you have it there. That's the stadium. And they just pulled it down. He pulled it down. Jason's just put that up, actually. It's so sad. It's so sad. Pat also says, was always in our house on a Saturday, Big Daddy, it's Saturday. Yeah. There used to be another fella, Les Kellett. He used to just go like that and go to it, and he used to just go. He's not set, wasn't he? But that was our entertainment, wasn't it? Kev Moulton used to introduce it to me. Kev Moulton. Kev Moulton. Anyway. But isn't that brilliant? Look, the stadium. Just imagine I seen not the Hoople, all the young dudes, Hawkwind, Silver Machine, and Queen. God knows what they sang. I don't think they sang any of the hits there. But, you know, nevertheless, they were absolutely brilliant. Yeah, social media is good in some ways and bad in others, I think. Yes, Mark, you're quite correct. I have a few nasty comments. They got told off. I politely told them to go away, but you're diddling. The two little words. Ends in enough. Tony Barton went to see the boxing at the stadium. Frank, brilliant place, but very cold inside. Yeah, you're right there. It was cold. But when you're jumping up and down, it soon warms you up, you know, Tony. But the music was absolutely brilliant. It was deafening. It really was deafening. Oh, I've got no one on my show tonight, and that's sad. That's sad. There's always one or two elderly women trying to hit the wrestlers they never liked. Tony Barton was always Baltic inside, as Lynn Ellis says. Yeah, it was cold. When you come to think about it, I don't think there was any eating in there. Don't forget, you know, what you've got to think of is the performers were in concert, or whether they were boxing, or whether they were wrestling. You've got to think of those because, you know, you can't have a very hot stadium where, you know, they'd be flagging after a few minutes. See what I mean? Do you get me point? So that'll be the X along with that. I really do. Just go along with that. And as Mark Kinney says, you only have to look at great buildings like that, and it proves the old buildings were built to last. There was no excuse for them not to knock them down. Yes. I've got a message here before I go. I bet it's off to you. No, it's not. It's off Twitter. Let's see. Yeah. I haven't seen. Small shit. Is that the Kappa? Don't know where they are. I'm sorry. Charlie Wood says, I saw a few concerts there. Rory Gallagher there a few times. One time, local band Supercharged. Well, I'm friends, and he's been on the show, actually. As he says, Nuts and Skyfall, all on the same bill. Brilliant night. Phil Jones fell off the stage. No wonder they shut it down. But that's the stadium. Look at it. Just look at it. It just goes around. It was fantastic. It really was. That's Alan Runkin there in the foreground of that. Isn't that brilliant? Absolutely brilliant. Photograph that. I mean, you've got the numbers there, the pounds that went on. But I imagine seeing what the Hooper and Auckland and Queen on that particular stage, and some great boxing as well, professionals and some amateurs as well. So it was a great stadium, and it's a shame that it was pulled down. First purpose-built stadium in the whole of the country. And I'll tell you another thing that was, we had the first purpose-built cinema in the city. And it was up by Walton Church. I forget the name of the road. Bedford Road. There. And it became a warehouse for furniture. And they only pulled it down a few years ago. And it was the very first purpose-built cinema in the whole of the country. And then we had the very first purpose-built cinema in the city, which was the Futurist. And it has a fantastic facade. Pull that down. And that was just recently. There you have it. If you can see that complex today, wouldn't that have been striking as an entrance? The Futurist. But they always make excuses. I've got this great man here, and I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to bring him in any minute, right? But I'm just going to take them out, and I'm going to bring in this wonderful artist, and there he is. He loves history, by the way, this man, and there he is, the one and only, and there he is, Anthony Brown. How are you, Anthony?
All the best of seeing you, Frank, and the guys.
Get out, you liar.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. How's everyone and the family? Okay.
We're okay, Frank. Yeah. I had a couple of sicky days myself over the past week, so I've just caught up with your last show, which I thought was phenomenal with Derek.
Yeah.
And I was halfway through one of your football podcasts when I pulled myself away to come on.
Oh,
didn't pull myself.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
I was just talking about some history there. I'll just bring this up, Anthony.
Yeah.
And it's the old boxing stadium in Bixted Street. And as I was saying before, it was the very first purpose-built stadium in the whole of the boxing stadium, that is, in the whole of the country. And unfortunately, with great vision and everything else, our city planners decided to pull it down to make a block of flats. And
in my life, I've heard so many wonderful stories about this stadium, and I never ever got in to see it. I saw one of the comments then. I think it was from Charlie, who said he saw Rory Gallagher there.
Yeah.
Well, my bandmates would have been at the same gig and stuff. It sounds an absolutely amazing place, and I'm saddened that it's gone, but more so that I never got in to see it. I know so many boxing fights, and my family have talked about many times about going there for remarkable nights in boxing and music.
Well, do you know what? You're right, because I'm going back years ago to 70, 71, something like that. And I was with this lovely girl. She was my girlfriend at the time, only young. And pair of us, that is, not just her. And I said, "Do you like Mott Hoople?" And she went, "Yeah, they're great." I said, "Northwind." She went, "Well," she wasn't really into the heavy stuff, I said, "Well, do you fancy going to see them?" Yeah. So we went, Anthony, and after the show, great bands. After the show, there was a couple of support groups, and we came out, and we both said that the support groups were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And one of the support groups, someone emailed me, and I'm going back when I was talking about it years ago, and someone emailed me and said I was there that night, and one of the support groups was Queen.
Get away.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about that? How about that? And what got me as well, and I know that Freddie Mercury lived up in Gambia Terrace at the time. He lived up there, so to get a gig, especially on the same bill as Mott the Hoople and Hawkwind, it must have been great for them. But they were brilliant. But I really don't remember them because, as I said, I didn't know the support groups were. Well, there was only two of them, and they were absolutely brilliant. The two groups. I don't know who the other group was, but whoever they were brilliant, along with the main stars of the show. So this is what you get, Anthony. This is what you get. Can I ask you something, Anthony? Like, you're a great artist, right? You're a wonderful artist and international, and it goes all over the place. Now, do you know when you look at Liverpool and you look at, say, a certain venue or a building or whatever that's being taken away, have you got anything in mind that you've gone, fancy doing that, taking that away, getting rid of it?
I do, and well,
I bet your dad would have said the overhead railway.
Yeah, I come from a family of sailors and dockers, so that was very much a subject of conversation. Yeah. But also, I'm included in some of this. I cite 1971 as the year that the town planners descended and no one had a plan, but everyone needed to pretend they had a plan. So they would pull down areas, St. John's Market, Scotland Road, and bam, bam, bam. And these little quangos would then move on, and someone would take their place and say, right, what's going on? Oh, okay. So we'll carry on pulling down. So the 70s weren't a great time for buildings. But having said that, I sound like a hypocrite here because inadvertently, Lainey and I became involved in a modern version of this catastrophe.
Yeah.
And it is a catastrophe. When you walk around the streets of Oxford or Manchester and you see the old and the new together, and you think, that kind of works. And we get it right some points in Liverpool. But I was brought in by a property company based on what we did with the 100 Heads kind of historical value, to do something with what was Lime Street, which had been knocked down by the time we were brought in.
I know where you're going to say because I mentioned it before. Go on, carry on.
Well, they had a plan which was basically, which to be honest is repeated around the city and every city. And it's kind of an architectural wallpaper, which means nothing to the spot, and in a sense doesn't add anything to the building. Now, we were originally given studio space in the Black Building, Man Island.
That's right.
And these are the flukes that happen in life. I was, we'd hired a studio in Liskeard, which was once a guitar shop, above a bookies. We befriended a wonderful man called Barry Owen of Mason Owen. And it was Barry who granted us permission to work in Hanover galleries. And then that had to change because of the whole development that was being built around it, which became Liverpool One. You know, which is a bit of a love-hate thing with a lot of people. I actually love the fact that we can walk from one end of town to the other in less than 15 minutes. We can be on the pier head and cut through Liverpool One. Some of the old streets are still there, St. Peter's and all of that stuff on Hanover Street, which is not changed really. And then we're back Chinatown or wherever we want to be. But for our involvement in the Lime Street thing, we were asked to produce something that would acknowledge what was there, which is hard because I'm not an architect, I'm not a builder, and the greatest thing would have been to build the buildings again.
Right.
So we sat in on a lot of talk and meetings and stuff, and we heard snippets of information from both sides, and no doubt you hear it every time there's a change in a building or someone takes the decision to pull something down. Now, I don't know, but hand on heart, I don't think it was a reckless decision out the blue. I think it was something built over the 40-year plan, in that nothing was happening with the buildings for 40 years. And literally some of them were crumbling on the inside. They were the first. They were absolutely beautiful. And I am the first person to acknowledge that beautiful street. And I spent so many times there as a young kid, as a young man in the Outfitters. There were clothes stores there. It was like a funky part of town that was almost Captain Town in time. The ABC was the only cinema open when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember queuing up there to go and see movies, taking our family there, taking Lainey and I going there in our courting days. And so this is still like, we got married.
Very nostalgic, isn't it? I understand what you're saying.
Well, it's because my mum and dad used to talk about it.
Yeah.
And same way as they used to talk about places like the Legs of Man, which is now, which as you and I'm sure your wonderful viewers would know, was a wonderful, was classed as a cocktail bar, but it was right next door to the Empire, and it was famous in its own right, absolutely famous. And
that's they used to play upstairs on the piano in the Legs of Man. He used to go upstairs, when he was here in Liverpool, and he used to go up there and rehearse, believe it or not, on the piano upstairs in the Legs of Man.
I played there in my little bands. I played there, and it came as quite a punch in the gut when you said I was going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, we're living in times where it's hard for pubs and certain businesses to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
But it does not lessen the feeling when they've gone.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that feeling when I walk around. And we spent a wonderful time with you going back a few years on one of the coach tours.
Yeah.
And it's quite disheartening, and I acknowledge the resentment of the new buildings which are in place of something that really could have been salvaged at a point. Instead of waiting for it to fall apart, then maybe the council's job would have been to CPO these buildings 40 years ago and do them. Yeah.
And that's the crying shame of it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Anthony, some of the buildings that were coming down, I don't think the city planners, had a look at this and, they've been told, shall we put this here? Yeah, not knowing the significance of that particular building and the historical value it's had for the Liverpool heritage. Or if they were from Liverpool, they hadn't a clue about the history of Liverpool. And that's the sad indictment about some of the things that went on. Now, as I mentioned about your dad, saying, well, he was bound to have said, if he would have been sitting there now with us, he would have gone like that. It was a crime to pull that down. It was a crime. But other buildings as well. I always remember, I used to, when I was lecturing and doing some history, local history, that is, I used to put a smashing picture up on the screen. And what it was the cotton exchange.
Okay.
And I used to say, look at that. And he used to go, wow, what is that? I said, have a guess. And I said, well, that was the cotton exchange. And he said, what happened? Did they get bombs in the war? I said, no, they pulled it down, the facades, and left the exterior up. Because what it had statues and columns going around it, hadn't they? Columns and statues, absolutely fantastic. And they did away with them. It was criminal, absolutely, disgusting. It was criminal what they actually did, albeit that the building's still there. And, people do think it was bombed during the war. And I showed another thing as well. I showed them exchange flags. And exchange flags, the original exchange flags was absolutely gorgeous, brilliant, absolutely wonderful architecture. And they pulled it down in 1954. Again, they said, was it bombed? No. They pulled it down in 1954 to make way what we have today in exchange flags, which is, Walker House. And it's just sad. It's so sad the way things have gone. They wanted to pull down the Lyceum. They wanted to pull down that. I said, haven't you got any idea how important that is? So there's some of the buildings that have gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's too many.
Of course.
I read Charlie's.
Yeah, Charlie Woods. I think Littlewood's building will end up being pulled down. They have been talking about developing it as a film studios, but that has been going on for 20 years. Remember a few years ago, I was going away. I was flying away somewhere.
Phenomenal. Both my mum and my auntie worked there.
All right.
Worked at the building which was Vernon's Pools, and there's all of these historic beautiful, beautiful, beautiful buildings. Um, Fundamentally, the problem is um, we, the people, don't have the money to buy the buildings to safeguard the future. So at some point, the people who own them, the businesses, whatever, move on. And it happened most recently with Lewis's building,
Yeah.
which I was, Lainey and I were fortunate enough to be allowed to show the heads in. And they gave us the window space. And when I was an art student, and although my studies were primarily based in Birkenhead, we'd spend one day a week. We'd go over to Liverpool School of Print on Hope Street, but we would always stop by the windows of Dickie Lewis building, and it's like that was an art form in itself.
Yes.
Those windows at any time of the year, but certainly Christmas. So every art group would say, okay, come on, 30 students or whatever, look in there, what you see. And it was just class, class. And we got a chance to exhibit in there. And then the family, I think it was a family decision, decided that they'd reached the end of the road and they put the building up for sale. And there was talk about it's going to be a hotel, it's going to be multi-purpose, all sorts of stuff. And it didn't do anything for years. I don't even know what it is now.
No, neither do I.
No section of it round the side going up Renshaw Street has become like a branch of NHS, but it's like who's going to stabilise the buildings?
Well,
I can't afford it. You can't afford it.
Oh, but don't you think it's with the progress, shall we say, of technology? It's like when you look at the likes of Blacklist, you mentioned about windows and everything else. And when you seen Blacklist at Christmas, it was incredible because on the like the thing going around, you had all these Christmas trees, you had all the lights and day of Christmas and the big windows. And when you went in, you seen all of this, and that was magical. Especially, it was magical for everyone, not only children, but also the same as Lewis's. Lewis's was fantastic, as was TJ Hughes. But the likes of the big stores now, the likes of those old department stores, according to people, they played out now. It's like when you go down to Church Street and you see now that Marks and Spencer's has moved, or they're moving from Marks and Spencer's, as we know today, to Liverpool One. So that's going to be empty for I don't know for how long, for what purpose, I just don't know. And this is the shame about the way modernism is today.
And you know what, Frank? It falls into. We've had this conversation before, but one of my pet hates of globally, but certainly in Liverpool, is investment quangos who don't particularly give a flying stuff about what the investment is, whether it be football, and you know far better than me the damage that investment groups are doing to football, and also they're doing to high streets, because a investment group may own 6 or 7 flagship buildings. So it's their concern really is what's on the return, what they get back on an investment, not the history of the place. And it is heartbreaking. And when you look at as you just mentioned then, the Marks and Spencer's building, and I don't know the full history of it, but I know at one time it was a hotel. And when you look up, when we do that thing of looking up and not looking at the floor, you see, wow.
Exactly,
What a
exactly, and that's what you did. Yeah, wow, that's what it was all about. It was the wow factor. But when you look, I was, as you know, I was the historical consultant for Liverpool One, and
yes,
I'm made up at Liverpool One because there was nothing there, but they retained Shabas Park. They retained it, so they built
yeah,
around it, and they made Paradise Street a lot better because they got
yeah,
rid of the bus station and that hotel, and I forget what the name of the
yeah.
hotel was now,
Motels.
and remote house, yes. And those little buildings, but they retained one building in Paradise Street, and that was the very first American consulate,
Beautiful building.
my
Beautiful.
very first consulate in the world,
Yeah,
in 1779, because the American War of Independence was going on, and Thomas Jefferson and Washington said, listen, we've got to do something about our goods and our trade and everything else that's going on over there. But as you know, Liverpool was the hub. It was really
yeah.
the hub of Europe at the time. So
Wasn't it used as a not a recruiting office, but was it used in some capacity to involve Liverpool in the war? In the did it become a hub of
yeah,
of
it is actually, but it became a hub really at a later date, and that hub was for. So they moved the consulate, but they retained the privilege of Americanism, if you know what I mean. Very official. So they moved that, but just I understand where you're coming from here because they moved the consulate up to Abercrombie Square, and what that was when they moved that, but it wasn't the Americans, the North. It was during the Civil War. So the Confederates came over and they went up to Abercrombie Square.
wow,
And that's where they were
wow,
trying to recruit, which they did, believe it or not, because over there in Birkenhead, the big shipyard, Camelot,
yeah,
they built the SS Alabama. And the SS Alabama sank more shipping than any other ship in the
yeah,
entire, in the world, in any war. Even the First and Second World War, the Alabama sank more shipping than any other ship in any war. So anyway, that was built in Birkenhead, but it was manned by a Liverpool crew. It was manned by a Liverpool crew, loads of scousers sinking
wow.
ships for the southern states.
Well,
It
you
was
don't know.
absolutely madness.
Do you know what? You just reminded me of a Tom O'Connor joke, which goes, I'll abbreviate it because anyone who's from Liverpool will understand it. The Romans come to invade Liverpool, right? And they come through these doors, and there's a big, massive um, tent or castle there. And the Romans say, okay, my 5 strongest warriors are going to kick that door down and go in. And there's a little scout voice that shouts, send in the hardest men. So these 5 guys knock on the door opens, they go in, and 5 of them get flung out. Send in your 10 hardest men. So the Romans send in 10 men. Same thing happens. You hear the sound of battery, and then these 10 men come out. send in your 15. When it gets to 20, the Romans send in their 20 leading squadron, and they get battered and thrown out. But the only one of them who's still able to talk says, "Stop there, sir. It's a trap. There's 2 of them." But I always loved that. I thought, yeah, you don't pick a fight.
That's a typical O'Connor joke, that, isn't it, really? A typical O'Connor. Well, look, stay with me because before we go to, I've got to go and I'll talk about these. Well, I'll come back to the comments as well, because here's a little go. Anthony, are you going to play a solo song on your guitar? I can see in the background, says Mark.
You know what, Mark? Give me a few weeks, and I would love to. Yeah, my arm's a bit snookered at the moment. That's why I wonder. But I will. And I've heard that Charlie's just put up.
Do you know what?
When I played there, last time I played there, we played upstairs, but we didn't know there was a funeral on. It had been hired out. It was busy bar during the day, and then at like 2 o'clock, it was hired for a funeral. And my fellow bandmate Steve Elson had just started. He had one song in the act, which was Dylan's "Knocking on Heaven's Door." So he was singing "Knocking on Heaven's Door" as the funeral party arrived. And it was like the manager, Tony, was in, cut it.
You can't make things up, can you, like that? You couldn't make it up. You just couldn't make it up. And I'll tell you that before we go to a break and a clip, Anthony, Charlie Cairns, as he says, you know, he had to wear a tie upstairs in the legs, as you know. Now, there was a family named Duttons from the same street where Charlie came from, called the Duttons in Comer Street. Right. So I forget the eldest fella, and he goes up, and he never had a tie on or anything. And he has a suit on, but he didn't have a tie. And you can't get saved here. You've got to have a tie to get saved. The following week, genuineness, he goes up, bare chested, with a dicky bow on. That's the kinds of people that, Scousers, obviously, they're absolutely ridiculous. But Charlie will know them. But anyway, I'm just going to play a clip, Anthony. Hope you enjoy it, and wait till I see some of the photographs that I'm going to show. And we're talking about demolition.
Many people walk through these portals, and what they don't notice is the figure of Neptune and the hands gently resting on 2 little African boys, and the boys hold money. But what does it really depict? What you have on the top is a locust, and locusts are known for famine and disease. They destroy crops. Underneath you have the 2 dolphins, and they're circled. Underneath them you have Neptune himself. But this is a Christ-like figure with a halo. You can see the 2 boys holding a bag each. What does it represent? It represents money and corn. Also what they're holding are navigational instruments and an anchor. Because in those days, this is 1932 when this building was erected, the only way to get to the African countries was by steamship and not, like today, airlines. So therefore, the trade helped these famine-ridden countries, and that's what it depicts. Obviously, we cannot see all the rooms that Herbert J. Rouse designed. But this is the boardroom, and the boardroom is exceptional. This is Art Deco at its best, with a Greek theme, original clock, and its original 1932 fire with natural amber. Imagine all the transactions being conducted from here, the boardroom, from all around the world. But today it's quite different because it's used as a function room. You may find yourself here at a talk, but don't forget to take a look out the window because you may find a very special neighbour. Another boardroom? No, this was the dining room because they came from the boardroom and they actually dined in here. There was a lot of money in this city, a lot of it. Yeah, I think I found the right door because they're dotted all over the place. No matter where you go, you could find yourself lost, but I think I found the right way up to the roof. Found it. Now we're on the roof. We're keeping with Rouse's Greek theme, and this is a Greek colonnade, magnificent as it is. The attention for detail that Rouse puts in, even on a roof that nobody sees, and it still retains the Greek theme, Art Deco Greek theme. When we were in the boardroom, we met the next door neighbour. There's next door but one.
What do you think of that?
Absolutely. We underestimate words these days, but that is stunning, as is the Liver building. I once was commissioned to do, so we're going to revitalise parts of the Liver building, mainly the basement, as an area for staff restaurant and stuff. And I was asked to submit some artworks and things. But as part of that, I did a tour. And what you just brought to mind then with St. Martin's is with the furnishings. A lot of these furnishings had to be made in the room where that dining room you showed me then was stunning. And the big room, same as the Liver building, where it's not like now where we go to IKEA and we buy a table and chairs and get up the stairs or whatever. You couldn't get these things upstairs. You had to assemble them or make them or craft them where they've stayed all these years, and it's unbelievable that we are not going to get a chance to see it unless we can hire a room and you get to hire a room for the wedding or whatever, and you get to see certain features of the building. But that rooftop is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because over the road, not only have you got a Greek colonnade, but also over in India building, same architect, by the way, Herbert J. Rouse. And to me, he was the greatest Art Deco architect in the entire world. He was absolutely amazing. And the Americans wanted him to go over there. He said, no, he said, this will do me fine here. And what he built on the top of India buildings were two, not one, but two Roman villas. They're absolutely brilliant. Roman villas, when they're pointed out. So you've got, on one side, you've got a Greek colonnade, and on the other side, you've got Roman villas, which is absolutely amazing, when you come to think of it. But I want to show you something here, Anthony. I'm going to show you something here. That's me, the wonderful Gap Painting, who sponsors the Frank Carlyle show. I've spoken about them. And just let me go over this. Just bear with me. Look at that. Right?
Yeah.
Have you any idea where that is?
It looks like along Dale Street. Some
Okay.
of those buildings, but I couldn't tell you exactly
Okay.
where.
Okay. He's talking about things being demolished. I'm going to sicken you here. Do you know where that was? That was in Ranelagh Street. And what's there now is the St. John's Market. And they pulled that down. That was built by John Foster Sr. in 1801. So it was being built from 1777, 1776, 1777. And they pulled it down. It was completed in 1801, and they pulled it down to make way for St. John's Market. That could have been used, just imagine that there today, as the entrance to it. Just imagine. Because that was the old St. John's fish market. Imagine that today. Imagine it. So they pulled that down, which is totally...
It's like preservation orders mean nothing, do they?
No. Wait till I show you this one. Right. Now, you see a handcart, don't you, on the right?
Yeah.
You see a hansom cab behind it?
Yeah.
Do you see the second hansom cab? Well, it's really a bus, actually. But you see the second one there, down?
Yeah.
Well, if you look up, you see the building with all those columns.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that was the state. And they cut it in half in 1959 to make way, for that horrible building next to the state, if you like. The likes of William Hill Bookmakers you've got on the corner, right on the corner of North John Street. They cut it in half. And that's what they done. That's what they done. Beautiful inside. Beautiful. And the fella who built that, by the way, was the same fella who built the Liver Buildings, W. Aubrey Thomas.
Wow.
And the inside, as you know, the state is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It became a nightclub, as you know, but it still retains its beauty, its
That's
aestheticness, you know.
Sorry, yeah.
And isn't that a shame, the way that we've looked at buildings and totally neglected them, you know, by cutting them in half or just demolishing them. And that's the way it's been. That's the way it's always been, unfortunately. And I'll tell you what,
well, it possibly would be more of a salvation for each and every city if they got rid of planning departments and put historical departments in its place.
yeah.
So
Do you know what though, Anthony? In the library up in, it's the Roscoe Library actually, up in William Brown Street. There's a book there, and it's the Audubon book, and it's worth it was worth 53 million, and it's in a big glass case because they don't want air to get at it. It's absolutely stunning. And when Cameron was Prime Minister, what he wanted to do, he wanted to go around the country getting their best artefacts and opening up a museum down in London and showing, you know, the best down there, you know, from other cities, not just Liverpool, but from other cities. And he wanted to take the Audubon book. He wanted to do that. But luckily enough, he had to resign over Brexit. And it never happened. It never came to fruition about taking the Audubon book. But if you've never seen it, you want to go and see it. It's in the Roscoe Library. It's in the Roscoe rooms. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Well, the first thing comes to mind is that we would never have got it back, would we?
No, surely not. It took us 30 years to get the Lion back off Manchester. The Lion is the oldest steam engine in the entire world, the oldest one. It was made just after the rocket, and the rocket, as you know, is no more. It's gone. It's vanished. It's kaput. And Manchester tried to keep it, and it was ours. You know, we built it here. We built it here. It was called the Lion, and we've got a pub, as you know, in Barn Street called the Lion. Well, the top of Moorfield's called the Lion.
Brilliant pub, whiskey specials.
Yeah, do you like it in there?
I love it in there. I love the railway next door.
Yeah, the railway. Well, there you go, the Lion and the railway.
Yeah.
So it gives you the connotations of the Lion, the steam engine. And I'll tell you where it was the other night, Anthony. If it was a known, you know, it was off the cuff thing going out. I would have got hold of you to see if where you and Lorraine were, if you would have been out. I went in your Yole in the Wall.
Oh, what a classic pub that is. All the little smokes are still there, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know that it's the oldest pub in the city centre? Well, in Liverpool now, it's the oldest pub.
I absolutely love those buildings, Frank.
Yeah.
If those buildings could talk, imagine the books they could write. Man, I love that. I love that walk, really. And obviously, not a million miles away from the pub you're talking about, the Lion and the railway, and all of them together. Yeah, fascinating. Well, later we spent a lot of our early years around that part of town, from the White Star, just around the corner from Matthew Street, which you and I have been to and met up a couple of times, going onto that side of town.
Not kidding, get onto this. And I did that a few years back. I was walking along looking up at the buildings and nearly fell on a woman. As you say. Of course. You say. Me and brother need to sort that cinema out at the bottom of Park Road. Beautiful structure, that. Yes, it is. But whether it'll get done or what, I just don't know. Wasn't the Baltic Fleet where the lads were press gangs? Yeah, it was at a later date because the press gang had their offices on the Strand. And it never had, like, office, the press gang office.
Oh, that's
You can just
I heard another wonderful story, because when we were in the Man Island building, which is the black building, when we were there, I was trying to do because you and I talked years and years ago about the fact that one of the buildings that was there was one of the biggest Victorian warehouses, kind of just off dock. And I started to do a bit of research, and there's a wonderful guy, Kevin, who's now retired from the library, does his own, Kevin Roach, who does his own stuff. But he got me a fascinating bunch of papers on Man Island, on the strip, why it was called Man Island. And there's so many scenarios. People were saying because it's Thomas Mann, the unionist, and that's where all the union meetings and everything was held. But from what I can gather is that once upon a million years ago, there was a few shambolic houses on this strip of land which almost ran into the sea. And one of the businesses there was by a chap who made canes, and his name was Man. And it became a nickname that these 4 houses were called Man Island.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's true, but it sounds fascinating. And one of the 4 buildings was a boozer, which was notorious for if you go in and you get a tap on the head, and then you wind up in Peru or whatever, So
not a Sorrento, but Peru.
You go, only came in for half a lager and a bag of crisps. Yeah.
Do you know where? I'll tell you how Man Island got.
Yeah.
And it got its name. There was a fellow, and some people think it was when Tom Mann came up during the 1911, during the strike, but it wasn't named after him. It was a fellow who lived in a little shack. And do you know how he earned his living? He earned by sharpening cutlasses, right? Not just cutlasses, knives, dockers' hooks and things like that. And they just called it Man Island. That's how it got.
I've heard half the story, but the knife stuff changed to canes. But isn't that a remarkable story?
Yeah, of course.
Because it would have been a place that no one really gave a stuff about. You didn't want to be there after dark.
No.
It's one of them places.
Well, you know the pub you're talking about as well. Shall I tell you the name of that, the notorious pub? It was called Dickie Sam's. There was a fella named Richard Samuel who owned a pub. And have you ever heard an old saying? I bet your dad would. An old saying says, if you borrow money, for example, say you lend money out, to Lorraine or even me, and someone will turn around and go, you'll get that back when Dick talks. Have you heard that saying?
No.
Haven't you heard that saying? No, really? Yeah,
No.
you know, it's an old Liverpool saying, oh, you'll get that back when Dick talks. In other words, you'll never get it back, but, you know, because he's a bad payer or whatever.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
has happened, Dickie Sam, one weekend, he had loads, because all the seafarers used to go in there, spend all the money. And what had happened, he got fed up. So he got all the takings, he got everything of this wonderful weekend of all this money coming in, that he jumped ship and no one knows where he went. Hence the saying, you know, if you lend him money out, or you get that back when Dick talks, because he'll never talk again. In other words, you know, you won't get it back.
Wow.
That's a little saying.
Wow.
Dickie
Well,
Sam.
I have to do a little book based on these sayings
Yeah.
that we grow up with, and
Yeah.
we invariably don't know the meaning of. I was reminded of one the other day. Lainey and I were walking somewhere, and there was a woman, and I couldn't hear what she was saying, but she was pulling the most horrendous faces. You know, when someone doesn't like something, she
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
I remember my mum saying to me when I was a kid, the wind is going to change and you'll stick like that.
That's right.
And I'm watching this woman wherever we were, and I'm chuckling to myself, if that wind changes, Mrs., you're going to stick like that.
Do you know what, though? You're right. When I used to go to my Auntie Mary's, you know, standing in front of the fire, you know, when it's cold and you're standing in front of the fire, she used to say to me, are you going to make a cup of tea? And I went, why? And she went like that, when you're boiling your water. Standing in front of the fire. So there's all little mad sayings like that, but
Yeah.
that's the way it is.
Well, that's where the wit comes from. It's like that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. You get people who you know, it's like nostalgia, and they start talking. I was only talking, you know, my grandmother Italian and all this, and she used to tell me things. And when you're like 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18, you don't want to be sitting listening to these old tales. And, you know, today I go, why didn't I listen?
Why didn't he? Because we're always looking at a watch. We're always going to a gig or a football match or somewhere else, you know.
Yeah,
and that's life. And you know, what's the wonderful thing is that we now get chance to give it back. I know we've talked about your grandchildren, but also you're talking to school kids, and I've had a little chance to do a similar thing. It's like we reach a point in life and you think, these things are important. I wish I'd paid more attention. In a family where I came from, you know, on my mum's side, certainly, there was a story every hour and every day, and fascinating as they were, and the sayings that we don't realize we've kept, and they stay with us. And I value that beyond anything, anything. But it is nice when.
And there's Linda Roberts. She's saying hi from South Australia. Isn't that nice?
Hi, Linda.
Isn't that lovely?
That's
South
beautiful.
Australia tuning into us. It's just lovely. And as Tony Martin says, fantastic clips there. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Marketing Sound Frank says Charlie Cairns. Yeah, the market, you're right there. That was the photograph I showed before. So Charlie knew. I'm doing a thing. For Channel 5, which is next week. I'm filming it for next week. I don't know when it's going out. And I was talking to the producer today, actually. And it's all about Dickens coming here to Liverpool, and Dickens loved coming here to Liverpool. And what I said was, which people don't realise, that Charles Dickens, you know, before he was always writing, don't get me wrong, and then he used to go into courts, you know, especially magistrates' courts, and listening to, you know, little trials going, and he used to write notes and whatever, because he based all his characters on real life people, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And he came up here before St. George's Hall was built. And before, believe it or not, Oliver Twist was written. And what he came up, he was an amateur actor. Do you ever remember the ice cold storage place in Williamson Square, Anthony? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Your dad's would. Your dad's would. And I remember it. Well, I lived in town, didn't I? I lived in Jerry Garden, so we always passed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the Theatre Royale. Great actors, you know, Sarah Siddons, she performed there. Also, Franz Liszt wrote a composition there, believe it or not. He was here for a few months, I think for a couple of months. And he wrote half of his composition, the Royale. Yeah. And Charles Dickens was an amateur actor. And he performed there. So I telling her this, and she said, have you got a picture of it? I said, yeah, somewhere. I haven't a clue where it is. So anyway, she Googled it, and she got it up. She said, was that a theatre? Because what you just see it in the background. I said, yeah, that's it. I said, it became an ice cold storage place. I said, it down in the very early 70s. And again, it's what you call, you know, I don't know, the city planners again, if you know what I mean. The city, it was built in 1771. And this is like 200 years later, they decided to pull it down. And it was the same stone as what you've got, St. George's Hall. Same stone. It went round, you know, like the Royal Albert Hall, went round like that. And columns, it's like columns. And they just get rid of things instead of looking at the historical significance of why that building was there and what it was for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's like incredibly, town planners are not from around here. It's like they're brought in on a bus load every so often. These quangos get off the bus, say, right, what's old?
Yeah.
And
I'll promise you this. I'll promise you this. When you're on a game, I told you, I think that Derek Shelmity, I think he's on, but the week after when you're on, I'll get a picture up of the old Jason had to go, you see. He said, the show on your own. I said, yeah, be all right. So he was a put us up, you see. He was a goddess and put us up, unfortunately. The Theatre Royale. And it was in Williamson Square. Beautiful building, beautiful. It really was. And, you know, they start pulling things down. But it's just never that. As you mentioned the 70s, you mentioned the 70s before, and that came down around 71, 72 or something like that.
From what I gather in my limited experience, 71 was the year that Demolition was the name of the game, and from Scotland Road right the way through town, all sorts of stuff went, and yeah. It was like they've unleashed this busload of people who haven't got a clue what they're doing, but progress was seen as a tower block mentality, which I know was a 50s and 60s thing, but ultimately to adapt that into city life, it's just like, if you can go back in time and just 1 year, we go back to 71 and say, turn that bus of town planners around and send it somewhere else,
Yeah.
Leave it to what we've got.
Yeah, well, it's like anything else. We're lucky. We've got more. This is how we're lucky, actually. We've got more Georgian buildings, dwellings, that is, dwellings, than Bristol. And Bristol, seems to have loads of them. And yet we've got more. We've got more open green spaces in this city. And as you mentioned before, about you can get from A to B within 15 minutes. Our city is so compact and so aesthetic. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable what's here in the city. We're the only city in the world, to have a liner coming in, and to have a liner coming in. You're not going to believe this. Coming into a city centre, a liner, we're the only one in the world. It's incredible. There it is. There it is. How about that?
Wow.
How about that? That's the Theatre Royal.
Beautiful.
See how rounded it was, and the columns.
Yeah.
And we knocked it down in 1971 or 72 or something like that. You just can't do things. It really annoys me. It really annoys me, unfortunately. And that's the way it is. But when I don't know. I really don't. Anyway.
I'll have to look in there was a name I came across a few years ago, and his name was Thomas Herdman, who was an artist.
Yeah.
And
just carry on talking. I'll show you something. Go on.
I tried to track down some of his books, and they're coming back with absolutely insane prices that I could not afford. And Lainey and I went to a car boot sale, and there for a £5 was a book, Thomas Herdman.
Yeah.
Now, what I hadn't realised was that he literally drew and painted all of old Liverpool, and I think he was from Everton Brow, somewhere like that, and he literally used to take a carriage or whatever, and he'd decide on the morning which direction you wanted to go, and he'd say to the guy, go down the street, turn left or whatever, turn right. And the guy would stop. That's the book we've got. That's it. And in that book, isn't it just fascinating, Frank?
It's unbelievable.
The way that
it's the history of Liverpool print.
And you've got
the history of Liverpool in print.
And you've got a mill almost next door, because
the
mills and
everything
were like the power.
But this is a black and white one.
Yeah.
No, I can't find a colours one. I've got a colours one actually. A colour book. The likes of this, hang on, there am I. The likes of that. That's Dale Street, and where that building is, like Barker Building. That's North John Street. That's North John Street, though.
So even in his time, which is what, late 1700s, early 1800s, because I know his son and his daughter took a part.
That's right.
He was drawing and painting buildings then, as the town planners of that time were knocking them down or planning to, and it's like, well, we've often said, haven't we, about history repeats itself, and it will eternally repeat itself, rights or wrongs, mainly wrongs. But that was such a glorious find to see that. And there's sites out there where you can see is watercolors, color pictures of what was there at the time and stuff. And I'll tell you who was a bit of an expert. There was a wonderful man called Colin Simpson, who was curator at Williamson Art Gallery, Birkenhead, Stady Road. I think Colin's now retired, but his kind of specialist field was Thomas Herdman and family. And I never got to a lecture he gave about him. But again, another one of firsts.
Yeah. That's the point, because if you do a history in watercolors, as you said, there's nothing better. And I've got the both Herdmans. I've got the father and the son, both named William, by the way, father and son, and they did a complete history of Liverpool in print watercolors, and you can't get any better than that. I'll show you. I'll just hang on a minute. Let's see.
I remember seeing these pictures of windmills, right in the middle of what we term now town centre.
I'm going to show you, but unfortunately, these are in black and white. Right, I'll show you them. Actually, I'll show you them. You're not going to believe it. Right, this is London Road.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see it. Right. Where am I? There I am. Hang on. I've got to. That's London Road, that. And what you've got also in that thing is the gallows.
Yeah.
Is the gallows. That's incredible, isn't it? Windmills, London Road.
Yeah. Well,
going
back to, and I'm not glorifying any of it, but going back to when we were asked to submit historical drawings about Lime Street, the very first panel I did was based on a Herdman painting of Lime Street, which was essentially windmills, because there was nothing else there.
No.
And that's what opened my eyes, and I thought, I've got to find more, because I was absolutely curious as an artist, but also my love of history of his. And I'm glad his son kept up the same thing, because I think his daughter went into teaching.
That's right.
His son followed the same journey as his father. I jump on a bus or a carriage.
Keep talking, because I want to show you the colours one, and you'll be made up with this. And it's a Herdman one. Carry on talking there about his son, actually, on his daughter.
Yeah. Well, I know less about the daughter other than she became a teacher, which in itself is a meteoric occupation to have. But there should be really an exhibition somewhere in the city of Herdman's paintings, because
you never get them.
So, do we get shows of his work?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you two pictures. One of his son, right? Because there were different kinds of paintings, very different.
Father and son were quite similar, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I'll show you. You'll be made up with this. I hope I can find it. Oh yeah, there's something for you. Just have a look at this. Remember when I mentioned about exchange flags being knocked down.
Yeah.
Where am I? They knocked that down.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
There's
Looks like
Nelson's monument, see? They knocked that down, Anthony.
what was that, Frank?
It was, again, you know, when I showed you that picture about St. John's Market, you know, they knocked it down.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same architect who did this. Who did that? The same architect, John Foster Sr.
Wow.
That was built also in 1901.
Oh my gosh.
And they knocked it down in 1954. 1954, unfortunately. And just bear with me while I get this thing out. And it's a shit. Oh yeah, there it is. Got it for you. I'll show you his son's one. Okay.
Yeah.
Peyton. And I'll show you the dad's one. Edmund, that is. Right.
Yeah.
It's not half awkward showing this, you know, because I don't know where I am. Where am I? Yeah, there I am. There I am. Do you see that?
I
right?
see it.
That's a mill, right?
Wow.
Okay, that's a mill. That's his son did that. And I'm going to show you what his dad did with the same mill. Okay.
Would they be at the back of the Baltic Fleet?
Okay.
That way we've got a
I know what you're talking. I've got a picture of that somewhere. I can't find it. But have a look at this one. Have a look at it. You're gonna love this. This is his dad's painting of the mill. And do you know where that is? That's William Brown Street. Where the mill is, what stands in there today is the Walker Gallery.
Wow.
That's the Walker Gallery there. Isn't that incredible?
So we're looking along towards where the tunnel is now.
That's right, going down, towards the tunnel, Isn't that unbelievable? And there's a pub that I'll try and point it out because it's very hard. I'm like Moses in Jericho trying to keep the world going. I go, where am I? That one.
Wow.
To see that building there, I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
Hang on, that one.
Yes, the white one.
Yeah. Well, that building, believe it or not, is a pub. Right? A pub.
Oh.
And it was called, they give it the nickname, the Assizes. Right? They give it the nickname, the Assizes. Because, you know, when I showed you about the gibbet, you know, being up at London Road, the gibbet, you know, the first photograph I showed you, or print. Yeah. People used to go in there and they used to have a bet whether the victim, shall we say, you know, who's going to the gallows, or the accused going to the gallows, rather. Whether they kick and scream, or she, you know, whether they kick and scream or go gently, right? But before that, they used to have a bet whether this particular person who was being tried was guilty or not. So they used to have bets, right? And that's how it became known. You know, the people used to go in there and have bets, you know, whether they go kicking and screaming, whether they're found guilty or not. And so they just called it the Assizes because it was like a courtroom for the, you know, the ordinary people, the ordinary citizens. So they just called it the Assizes.
Wow. What a
That's incredible.
Yeah. But how wonderful that they did this pictorial history.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it is. It's quite remarkable, actually.
It wasn't, and we talked about this before about acts of creativity and stuff. It's not all about money. in fact, the most important acts of creativity are not about money. It's about recording something, so that in time to come, it's appreciated.
Lawrence James Langton says, I used to like the frieze that was near the entrance of the William Brown Street Museum. Black and white mural, pressed buttons to highlight certain buildings. Remember it?
I don't remember that, Lawrence, but it sounds fantastic.
See, I know what he means. I don't know whether they still do it now, but I showed a group of people last week, and people don't realise this, that history is there on buildings of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And one building in particular tells the story of the history of Liverpool in frieze. You know when it freezes?
Yeah.
Do you know where that is? The Walker Gallery. It's got freezers around outside. And I show people and they say, didn't even notice that. Didn't even notice that.
Well, that leads my mind to thinking that when they constructed the Walker, they wanted to incorporate what was there before.
Yeah.
So it becomes that's gone, but here it is. It's still here, which is the only thing we can do with the new is to remember what was there before. And if the property developers or the council or whoever of demolish something and are putting something up, then there's a debt of honour and homage to say this was there before this building was here, this was here.
But you've only got to look at some buildings, as you know, here in Liverpool. There's a girl from, believe it or not, from Argentina, and she looks in at it with her friends from Buenos Aires. She looks in because she's a big Beatle fan, and she loves the accent, you know. So she tunes in all the way with her friends to the show. It's incredible, isn't it? Really, it just had a message there. And this lovely lady, Elaine O'Callaghan, she says, "Hey Frank, just wanted to say thank you for your walking tour last Thursday. What a day." Isn't that lovely? Thank you so much, Elaine.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Elaine. Yeah, there's something there now. And it's only, I love Jason, you know. I really love him. See, that's outside.
Yeah.
The Walker Gallery. And it goes all the way around. It really goes all the way around. How about that?
Is there a book or a leaflet that explains the significance of these certain people?
No, no. I try to explain to people, like Elaine O'Callaghan, for example. I explained everything because it goes from the likes of the. It goes from. This is. Do you see this? This one here. Yeah. That particular one, what Jason's got up now. Well, that the charter, the Royal Charter by King John.
King John,
in 1207. So I tell them about that because unfortunately you can't see them. Just in the background there, where the two fellas are on the right and the shields and the spears, you can see there's the castle. There's a castle, And that's the Liverpool castle, apparently, to be honest. But, this is what it gives. The other picture that's shown, I wonder if let's see. Oh, no. I thought I might have been able to have got the other ones. But one, oh, yeah, do you see that one? Oh, you see that one there?
Yeah.
That's when they were going over to Ireland, to Ireland, the Battle of the Boyne and all that. That's King William. And he sets off from here. So
to me,
William the First, that is. William the First.
The guy on the far end, the opposite end of the guy you just showed me, has got a remarkable resemblance to Bill Shankly.
Nice. Could be Bill's ancestor. But you've got also the lads leaving Liverpool, because this was the hub civilization to send troops off anywhere they went, right up to the Second World War, right up to the Korean War as well. Anyway, it was the Battle of the Boyne, and this one, that's it. You see all that. This is absolutely fantastic the way it was. To get over there to Ireland. Also, what you've got is the lads going over with Wellington to the Peninsular Wars, Portugal and Spain, to go and take on Napoleon. So you'd have that particular frieze, and you'd have a frieze in 1856 of Queen Victoria coming to Liverpool. And see what she was coming here for, 1856, because the St. George's Hall opens in 54. She came 2 years later to officially open it. And then it also depicts her when she came up in 1886 to open up the grand exhibition that was held at Wavertree Park. So you have this full history of everything just on the Walker Gallery, from the Royal Charter right up to mobilisation and whatever.
That's the eternal beauty of art from cavemen days to now, is that we can simplify to a degree. I mean, that's not simplified, but it's simplified enough that there is a visual history of some of the most important parts of the city. And that's where art and history gel, and they always have, whether it be, like I say, the historic age and the Romans, and then you get into the actual royals, King Charles and King James, bearing in mind there were no photographs, not even heard of. So these guys were clued up with the concept of employing, every court had a painter, employing the painters to record all the important people of the generation. And on we go, and on we go. Nowadays we have not enough buildings that are built to commemorate historic events, but we do have a way of including the history of an area. But that is beautiful. That is absolutely amazing.
Do you know what, Anthony? You might like this, because you've got little Lynn Ellis there, and she organises all little walks. Now, what I said to her, I said, organise a coach. And everyone who was on the tour last week said, yeah, we'll have a go at that. Because we've got a a replica castle up at Rivington Pike. Rivington Pike. And it's brilliant. And I used to bring my students up there. And I said, organise it, but organise it during like good weather, that we know that we're going, because we can get long range weather for, you know, for the week, that is. Organise it for that day, a weekday, and we'll go up. And if you want to go up, you and Elaine, it'll just be like, to be honest, a day out. That's all it is, a day out to have a look at the castle, because Lord Liverpool wanted to build the castle, you see, and in Liverpool, but unfortunately, Jason's great, you know. There it is. Look at that.
Wow.
Isn't it great?
Wow.
Isn't it great? What a lads. But, you know, it's the exact replica of Liverpool Castle, because he had to go to it. He owned at Rivington Pike. He owned that land. Just bear with me on this, and I'll show you. That's the exact thing that he built. Now, wait till I just show you this. I have got it here somewhere. Just bear with me, people. Just a little bit longer. Just please bear with me on this. I have got it here, and it's the plan of the castle, and it just shows you what it's like, and it's exactly like that. But I've got it somewhere. I think I have got it somewhere, and it's brilliant. Just bear with me on this. I have got it. I really have got the thing. Sorry, it was just. Oh dear. Oh yeah, got it. Look at that. No, that goes there. Oh, what I go through for the show. But the people are well worth it, aren't they? I'll just show this, right? I'll just show this and I'll go back to that. Okay.
Yeah.
So get a good look at that, right? I'll go back to it, don't worry. Where am I again? And there's the plan of the castle. That's the original plan. Right?
Wow.
See the 3 towers? Okay.
Yeah.
And have a look at this. And there's your 3 towers.
Absolutely brilliant.
How cool is that? How cool is that, Anthony?
Just amazing.
So, you know, if Lynn organises this sometime, it needs to be this year, though, you know, before I go away in April, in September. So we've got the whole of August to think about it. And it's only a day out, just like midweek or something like that. She always organises something on a Thursday. So on Thursday, go up and we'll have a look, and I'll give you the story about the castle, and it's great up there. It's great in Rivington on a lovely day out. It really is. So if you're interested, and the people out there, by the way. So I'll ask some people again, you know, if they're interested.
What a remarkable thing to do. Again, infused with passion.
Yeah.
Not for any reason, not for any monetary gain. Just like, wow.
Yeah. And as Mark Kenny says, I'm up for that trip, Frank. I'll hold you right. He likes holding me back so you don't roll down again. He said, but I'll keep you up so you won't roll down again, because one time I went and took all these people up. Absolutely. Yeah, look at that.
Oh,
Isn't it great just to see that? Yeah. Isn't that brilliant? Just to see that. And it goes right around, because Lord Liverpool wanted to build the castle as a ruin the way it was before they knocked it down. And preservationists going back to 1724 was saying, please don't knock this down. This is the very first building in Liverpool itself. But they went and knocked it down anyway.
They knocked it down.
Isn't that a shame?
Yeah, it is a shame. But that is glorious. That,
It is. And on a day like that, Anthony,
yeah,
you'll be made up because it's dry. You get a lovely cup of tea in the barn as well. There's a thing called the barn, and it's great. And, you know, lots of people just mingle around it. But it is. Remember Willie Russell? Not Willie Russell, I'm sorry. Willie Miller and Sean Stiles.
yeah.
We went to remember when they used to have the Sunday show together? Do you remember that? I went on it one Sunday, and they were talking, and I mentioned the castle. I said, oh, being up, took me students up to the castle. He said, where's that? So he explained where it was. And I had a couple of pictures, and I showed them. They went, oh, isn't that brilliant? And I explained that Lord Leverhulme wanted to build it here in Liverpool, but what has happened was, he said, well, I'll tell you what, he said, I know a load of lads who work, you know, the Arctics and these big lorries and, you know, that carry materials. So we go up and take it. We can hit stone by stone, no one will know. And by the time everybody wakes up after a week, it'll be gone. And this is genuine, this. They had a little newspaper called the Horridge Times. And I was in there. I had a print of it. Someone sent me the print of it, you know, the paper. And I said, the Willie Miller and Sean Stiles show. And they had an historian, Frank Carlyle, saying that they're going to take our castle. Someone wrote in. So crazy, you know, it's so crazy. But it's well worth a visit. So if you're ever up for it, it'll be great.
Lainey and I would well be up for that, Frank. Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely made up. Well, anyway, we've come to the end of it. I don't know what bloody time. It's nearly 10 past 10.
I'm so sorry I was late starting on.
Oh no, honestly, God, honestly, I'm just made up that you came. We've had a great chat, you know, people are made up. You know, Mark Kinnish there, what did he say? He said, Night, Frank and Anthony, great show. Isn't that lovely? And that Elaine O'Callaghan, she says, not on the 17th of August, please. I'm going to see Minton Tiles. So she means the Minton Tiles at St. George's Hall.
Talked about the other week, yeah.
Yeah, Prince Charles. Don't go on there. Like Richardson said, you can't go on. So well, you know. Isn't that lovely? Oh, McBelger. I've been erased from your friends for some reason, Fran. What's happening? Do you know that lad there, Mick Belgian? I grew up with him, you know.
Yeah.
And honest to God, for years, it must have been for 50 years, do you know what I was calling him? Joe. And he said nothing. He said nothing.
Oh.
Called him Joe. And he runs age, I said, it's Mick, you know, Frank. I said, what Joe? He said, it's Mick. So I said, okay, you just chat away. And when we were leaving each other, I said, I'll see you again, Joe. He said, all right, so that well. It's just, absolutely brilliant. Good night, Joel, says Elaine O'Callaghan. It won't
good night,
the 17th. I'll make sure. Tony Barton, great show. Tony says I here before, and he sent you a pint and a thumbs up.
Oh, I'm going to down it now.
Yeah, look, Charlie, well, 10 past 10 and no Dickie Mint. He's nearly God. Absolutely. So, listen, I don't know. I don't know whether Derek Shelmatine's on next week. Can I message you? Can I message you? I'm awfully sorry about this. I don't know whether the.
No, oh no, you message me whenever, Frank. Frank, I'm honoured to be your guest anytime. But I think Derek is because you're doing a spot about Billy Fury and
do you know? I think it's no. We did Steve Marriott last week. No. I don't know. I'll make sure anyway with Jason. Jason, he's the producer, so he knows everything. And there's Jason now. He'll be telling me.
There's Charlie.
I'm useless, you know.
Thank you, Charlie. Good night. God bless me.
Oh yeah, nobody on next week, mate. Derek and August. Do you want to come on next week, Anthony?
If I'm
no one's on, you can keep me company, and we'll talk about. I'll show you that thing as well. What I meant to show you as well. You know, a few things about buildings and whatever. And I think, mate, thank you so much.
I'll bounce a couple of colour images I've got of Herdman's stuff of town. I'll bounce him through to Jason, and then. If they're applicable and we talk about them, then they'll go up. Okay. But it's just wonderful having these people that record, and Lord Leverhulme there with that. That's just fast. What would you do without these passionate people?
Absolutely. I'm doing on the 17th of August, by the way, because I'm giving a little talk. And it's for a lad, it's at Waterstones, and it's for a lad named Marios Madzos, and he's a big red, and he's on my podcast actually.
He's
Marios, and he's doing a book signing, and it's called the Social One, and it's about Jurgen Klopp, and he said Jurgen Klopp fits perfectly well for Liverpool, you know, because of the socialism, whatever.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
So he's coming over from Athens, and he's doing a book signing on the 17th, and people are coming along. So if you want to come along to that, it'd be great. Bring Laney as well, because we go for a little drink as well. That's on the 17th.
Yeah, I'd love to see his book. And it's like Jurgen has fitted in so well with the city as well as the club, and it's almost like some people are bigger than the shirt that they wear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shockley was like that. Kenny Dalglish was like that. Is like that. You know, and their own persona is like Jurgen's up there.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Of course he is.
For him. I've never met him. I've watched many interviews.
I have. And I was messing with our friends here. Went to a function. I was invited up to a function at the Anglican Cathedral. And what it was all this smoke. Because I did a talk for David Guest at the Bridewell. Billy Butler was the compere, and I was the guest speaker. So David Guest hired me. So anyway, he sent for me, and me and our Francine went up to the Anglican, and Kenny was there with Jimmy McGovern. They were chatting away. And I said to Francine, I'm going over to him, I just want to shake this fella's hand. Well, I knew Jimmy anyway, you know, so but I made Kenny's. So I went over and I went, Kenny, you know, put my hands out like that. He said, hello, Frank, how are you? And I looked at him. I said, he's told you my name, hasn't he? He said, no. He said, I watch you on LFC TV. He knew me. But I told him about John Kirk, and I told him about, you know, the first recipient, Liverpool first recipient of the Victoria Cross, and also that is synonymous with the birth of Oliver Twist and Dickens's Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
And anyway, through the night, he kept shouting over to me. When he was in a group of people, he shouted, "Frank, oh, what? Was it Oliver Twist of Scouser?" I said, "Yeah." All through the night. All through the night, that was Kenny, absolutely brilliant. But that's my claim to fame. And my other claim to fame is you. You, believe it or not. Everyone says that. They say, what's your highlight? They always ask me that. And I just say, having a portrait done and being involved with 100 heads, Liverpool heads, thinking as one. And they explain the people from the Beatles to surgeons to everybody.
Jimmy and Kerry Dalglish are in there.
Well, yeah. And I said, me with them. So that's me. That's my highlight of anything, to be honest.
None above, Frank, below.
Being told by Kenzo that it was the finest historian on Merseyside. Oh, thanks. So it's absolutely. Listen, mister, so you will me next week and we'll have some more pictures to show.
That'd be wonderful, Frank.
Oh, thank you so much. Give all my love to the lovely Lainey and everybody else.
I certainly will.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's me, ladies and gents. It's a big thank you to the wonderful Anthony Brown. Can you get any better than him? Can you? Really? No. And I'm going to have him and John McArdle. Could you imagine them two great artists, but in different fields? One a great actor and one a great artist. Okay, and I'll definitely have them on just for me to kind of Gap Painting Services for sponsoring our show, Jason Pennington for producing the show, and most importantly, as I keep saying, you out there for looking in, keeping the Frank Carlyle show going, because without you, there'd be no show. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'll just have to leave this. Charlie Wood. Oliver Twist was here. That's a crack of that. Mark Curtis. Let's stay on till 2 a.m. like Ken's ours. Has everyone got their sleeping back? Thank you. Thank you so much, John. Anyway, I have to end it now. Thank you so much, John. See you all the Liverpool fans. See you tomorrow night on the podcast. See you all next week with Anthony. And it'll be great next week as well. What a man he is. What a man. Love him, He's got a lovely family as well. His wife, Lady, kids and everyone. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next week.